Good afternoon on a Friday. I hope all of you had a fantastic week so far. My name is Marfit Lassam. I am the Executive MBA Academic Director for Florida International University. And it is my distinct pleasure to welcome to the stage today a top executive for one of the iconic hospitality companies. I believe it's the biggest hospitality company in the world, Marriott. Diana Plazas Trowbridge is not only a top executive, but she is dear to us because she is also an alumna of the executive program at Florida International University. And she is currently the Chief Sales and Market Officer at Marriott for the Caribbean and Latin America. She has had a meteoric rise at Marriott to leadership. And at Marriott, she leads the brand, marketing, digital and loyalty efforts across the Caribbean and Latin America. Especially helpful was her career step integrating the Starwood hotels into the Marriott portfolio, which of course was the largest acquisition in the hospitality space in history. She leads the most comprehensive shared service organizations across sales, revenue management, and marketing for 36 markets in Latin America and the Caribbean. And her division generates over 2 billion in revenue per year. She is not only very successful at Marriott, but she is also part of board of directors. For example, she sits on the board of directors for Discover Puerto Rico, which is the organization in charge of working with governments to promote tourism in the island. She is also on the board for Women in Travel. In April 21, she led the team that launched the first co-branded credit card for the company in Mexico, where today the company has more than 100 hotels and over 1.5 million Marriott Bonvoy members. That's the loyalty program for Marriott. So with over 300 hotels and a presence in 36 different markets in the region, Diana is a traveler. She uses her expertise to balance the global initiatives and priorities with those tailored to each market and hotel, which of course is what we call segmentation and focusing on markets based on her marketing expertise. It is my enormous pleasure to introduce to you now Diana Plazas Trowbridge, who is going to talk to us about women in leadership in the case of Marriott International. Diana, it is my pleasure. The stage is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much, Professor Walfrey. Thank you very much for that introduction. It is truly an honor for me, and especially, as you mentioned, being an alumni of the Executive MBA program from Florida International and being able to speak to other students that are starting their journey or finishing their journey that led me to the role that I am in today. So very, very honored to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So as we mentioned, I am the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for Marriott International in the Caribbean and Latin America with around 300 hotels spanning 36 countries. And my responsibility is really around the commercial space. And today I wanted to talk to you about women in leadership. It has been an incredibly hot topic, especially over the past 18 months, where more and more women have exited the workplace than ever before. And where we want to make sure that we're supporting each other, but also that for those of you men in executive positions are also able to support the women around you. So I'm going to share with you a little bit more about what we do at Marriott, what has helped me, but then also some additional tips and suggestions as you embark on your career journey. We really want to make this as interactive as possible. So please ask questions. That's truly the best way to learn from my own opinion as well. Ask the questions. We want to engage with you and make sure that this is as conversational as possible and that you're getting a lot of value out of this session as well, because obviously you're investing your time in this session as well. So let's get started. So wanted to share with you some information that we received from Women Deliver around the benefits of female leadership. And the stats really speak for themselves. So when you have gender diversity on executive teams, those companies are 21% more likely to outperform the national average. Companies with strong female leadership on their boards have actually reported returns on equity of 10% more compared to others without it. When women are included in a peace process, the agreement is actually 35% more likely to last. And countries with a greater share of women in cabinet ministries exhibit greater levels of confidence in their national governments. So again, we see this across the board. We see this in different industries, in government and nonprofit, and we have to make sure that we're driving towards it. So at Marriott, we really focus on this idea of embracing diversity, and wanted to share here with you some of the images from some of the events that we've had, really focus on how we celebrate our women in leadership, but then also how do we support those that are maybe in entry-level positions, then showing them the opportunities that lie ahead. Diversity, equity, and inclusion have always been a cornerstone of Marriott International's culture and an essential pillar of our future success. Inclusive teams with diverse perspectives, skills, backgrounds generate greater innovation and business results. We're committed to ensuring that inclusive opportunity and inspiring those employment opportunities. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to inspire some of you here or all of you here to join a career in hospitality or join Marriott. Every one of our associates is tasked with promoting that culture of inclusive opportunity and mutual support. So it's really at the core of what we do every day, and ensuring that it's also resonating with our clients, with our stakeholders, our owners, franchise partners, all of them. It's a message that I'm not just saying it to you here, but it's something that we live through. And it all started with Alice Marriott. So this is all around this living legacy of Mrs. Alice Marriott. We honor her because she was the company's actual first woman vice president and board of director. It's a milestone in the role women would play in our company's leadership that she started decades and decades ago. We carry on with that legacy by building our teams to ensure that we have women in the most senior and influential roles in our company. She didn't only just keep the books in the beginning. She didn't just organize the associates, but she then moved on through the organization, forging her roles. And so have some of the children of the Marriott family as well, including Debbie Harrison Marriott, her daughter, who also is now a part of our board of directors and really one of the leaders behind our culture of the company. So it's about that focus on empowering and ensuring that women receive the right training, the coaching, the mentorship, and ensuring that we're providing the support to get into senior leadership levels. Today, I also wanted to share with you two key women in our company. First is Leanie Oberg. She's our Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for all of Marriott International, all 100 plus countries, 7,000 plus hotels. And when you think sometimes about the role of CFO in a Fortune 500 company, a blue chip organization, a lot of cases, those CFO roles are occupied by men. So for us to have a woman leading that incredibly important division shows you the commitment that the company has and that our leaders have had to women leadership and our company's success. It's really been about placing that emphasis on empowering and ensuring that women are receiving the training, the coaching, everything that is needed to get into these positions. And what better way than having somebody like Leanie, for example, in this particular position? It's all about setting up goals, strategies, objectives, the programs that allow us to develop this talent, and having the right percentages, for example, of women in leadership that starts all the way from our hotels. The other leader that I wanted to highlight is actually one of my bosses, and it's Stephanie Lenartz. Stephanie Lenartz is president for Marriott International, and she's responsible not only for all of the commercial divisions in the company, so everything from consumer operations to also development, as well as many other areas of the company. We know that we have to make sure that we have the right practices to showcase that commitment. And with Stephanie's rise to this first time ever role for a woman as president of this company, again, it's really showing the commitment that we have to driving female leadership, to empowering women, and leading divisions that normally were maybe just led by men. For example, Stephanie leads our IT department, all of the technical side, which tends to be even what we see across our company. It's a lot of male-driven leadership, but she's really the one driving that overall strategy for the company. And again, across more than our 7,000 hotels. So it's seeing these two women, seeing others Our general counsel also is a woman. Our head of communications and culture is also a woman. These are direct reports of our CEO. And it inspires you. It gives me motivation in my own executive team. So I report into the president for the Caribbean and Latin America. And as part of his executive committee, you have also our general counsel is also a woman, our area vice president for Mexico, which is the higher leadership role for our most important market of 100 plus hotels. It's also a woman. And then also our HR leader is also our chief HR officer is also a woman. So I am surrounded by very powerful women that provide me the advice, provide me the support, but that I can also go to for any questions that I may have if they have a lot more years of experience with the company or with a certain team. Is having that collaboration and really building that organization that has that connectivity and that trust, and that we all are here to support each other. So at this point, we wanted to open it up for questions. And Walfried, I'm not sure if we have any questions that have come through.
I have not seen questions yet, but I have one, if I may. So could you please tell us how the commitment that Marriott has to women in leadership, clearly based on what you said, has helped you, enabled your career growth? Maybe you have some specific examples of specific events or a specific commitment perspective.
Absolutely. So thank you for that question. So particularly because I'm in the Caribbean and Latin America, culturally, we know it's also very male driven. And one of the opportunities that I've had during my career at Marriott was to run our owner and franchise relations organization. And again, the population of our owners and franchise partners, over 90% men, most of them that live within our countries. And when I was first announced in this role, we heard some feedback from a few owners that were shocked that they put a woman that had just recently joined the company a few years back instead of a male that may have been in other roles or a general manager, to put him into that role. And at that point in time, my boss really just gave me all of the incredible support for it. I got all of the leadership support, the advice, the coaching, and also the training, because I was going actually into a job that I didn't have all of the experience possible, but that's always been one of my biggest pieces of advice to any woman that I can give, is the fact that they say that men will apply for a job when they're not qualified, but women expect to be 100% fully qualified with all the requirements and a job description before they apply. And having my boss give me that trust and that confidence that, yes, I didn't have that operations background. Yes, maybe I didn't have the specific hotel operator background, but he empowered me to go and learn it. He gave me all of the support. And funny enough, actually, I had dinner with one of those owners that sent feedback just very recently. And now we have a great relationship over the past few years. And it was all really about giving me that chance, giving me that opportunity, but also giving me the confidence that I could learn the job, that I could do it, and that I had a network behind me of men and women to be able to help me with the job. And honestly, having that vice president of owner and franchise relations job is what prepared me to take on this CSMO role, because I needed to have a broader perspective. I had been known as the marketing person. I joined the company as a VP of brand marketing and digital. So a lot of people just knew me as that and thought that that's all I had to give. And it was having that leadership to give me the expanded roles, but also the confidence that I could do it and that I could learn it.
We have two fantastic questions from Anna and Alicia, which I would actually like to put together, if I may. Anna was asking, how much do you think your sector for hospitality, helps women empowerment compared, for example, to industrial sectors? And Alicia is actually asking something similar. She's asked, what are the most significant barriers for women leadership that you had to overcome? So apparently there might be some differences between hospitality and industrial sectors. And then the question is, what were the most significant barriers that you had women in leadership have to overcome in your industry?
Okay. So I think from a sector perspective, I think because there are some technical needs as it pertains to our industry, but a lot of it at the end of the day is service. A lot of it at the end of the day lies in the fact that we want to ensure people are having the most amazing experiences. And I think that helps you with also some of that caring and nurture nature that women bring to the jobs. Into the hospitality industry has a very natural link. So I think that in an industrial space, it could be a little bit challenging, but it's still the same spaces. So what I always say is that in hospitality, you can work in finance, in HR, in food and beverage, in maintenance, in security, which are also divisions that you have in an industrial space. So I think that it could give you also a good start, that you could start potentially in a different industry and then transition into an industrial one, if that's your passion, if that's where you want to go. But you still have all the different disciplines. So I feel like you still also have operations. You have every responsibility that you would have in, let's say, in a manufacturing company. You also would have it within a hotel. Yes, you may have housekeepers in hours versus having somebody that is doing QA in manufacturing, but it's still the same at the end of the day. So I think it's the opportunity to go into different disciplines versus sectors. And then in regards to, I'm sorry, Wilfried.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
I was going to go into the next question, so I don't know if you wanted me to say something.
No, please do. No, please do.
Okay, so the other one was about the most significant barriers for women in leadership and how to overcome those. So I think personally, and again, like this has been my own opinion, we set a lot of those barriers ourselves. As I mentioned, the studies out there show that women will not apply for a role unless they feel that they meet every single one of the requirements, while men won't do that. Most men will apply for a position even if they only have half of the requirements for it. So in a lot of cases, we set those borders and those hurdles, we put them in front of ourselves. Or we think that because women have to, like have children or things like that, that they're not going to be able to move into those roles. Both Leanie and Stephanie, who I share with you, have children. And I had a chance to actually meet one of Leanie's children at an event, and she's now in her early 20s, but amazingly driven career, very, very connected to her mom. So it just shows you that sometimes in my opinion, we set some of those ourselves, or we inhibit each other as women to do it because we create that own same hurdle. And again, overcoming them is really about having that drive, expanding our reach, trusting our gut, trusting our instinct that we can do more.
Thank you. Before we move on to your next session or next section of slides, Val, I think, ask, do you know how the women representation is in Asia? I mean, you have been reporting on your division and main headquarters. Mm-hmm. How is it in Asia?
Yeah, so I know that culturally in some markets, it's growing. So I can tell you that in our Asia and actually also our Greater China team, there are some women as part of those executive teams. And we have a goal that we have to achieve also in regards to female general managers that they also have on their marks. And the brand leader for Asia for our organization is a woman. The person leading loyalty and digital for Asia is also a woman. So I do see it. I know that, again, culturally, I think in some parts of the world, it just takes a little bit longer. But as a company, the focus is global. So it's not different from one part to the next.
So Jose asked a question in regard to mentorship and other programs. I think we are going to table that question after your next section. So please go ahead with the next section of your presentation.
Thank you so much, Wilfried. And I love the questions. This is exactly what we wanted it to be. So please keep them coming because that helps us all learn together at the same time. So thank you for those questions. Okay, so actually this is perfect, as you were mentioning, Wilfried, in regards to some of the programs and initiatives. So here are some of the specifics of what Marriott International has put into place. So in 1999, we were actually the first hotel company to establish a women's leadership development initiative. And we established objectives of achieving global gender parity for women in executive positions by 2025. And we're actually now accelerating that to hit it by 2023. So we have about 15 months or so to achieve those goals. Our commitment is around board level, as well as the high potential leadership development programs and our CEO Global Diversity and Inclusion programs. In regards to our board, we were one of the first companies to establish a board of directors with a focus on inclusive opportunities for women, which now is when you start hearing more about that from a women and also POC perspective. Here in the US, at least, I know that we have audiences from all over the world, but here in the US, it's become very, very popular. In regards to the high potential programs, we have a special emphasis on empowering women to obtain the training and the coaching needed to ascend to senior leadership levels. So we actually have a program that's called WILL, Women in Leadership, and it's a week-long program that I, as a leader, get to nominate some of those high potential females in my organization for them to go through that program. And that puts them now into a separate list that shows that these are some of the women in leadership that are ready for that next level. And the whole company is able to now access those profiles of them. And then the chair, Global Diversity and Inclusion Council that our CEO is part of. And really, it's, again, looking at every aspect of the business. So the question in regards to Asia, in regards to Japan, for example, this is a global diversity and inclusion program. Each continent, we also have to have our own committee as well and our own council, because we also have to drive it from the hotels to our area teams, all the way to our regional teams and the roll-up as well. Next, you'll see here some of the additional images from other events that we've had. So here in the Caribbean and Latin America, one of the platforms that we use is this Let's Talk forum. Again, there's nothing better than hearing from other women that have moved through organizations. And here you can see some of the CEOs have joined us from other industries. We've had somebody that is running a huge operation as part of Copa Airlines, for example, was one of the women that spoke. We've had women leading nonprofit organizations at a very large scale in a market. We've had also women leading manufacturing companies as well in some of our countries. And it's small settings because sometimes also we know that some women may not feel comfortable in a large audience asking some of the questions they have. So this idea of Let's Talk really has helped us provide that additional mentorship, sponsorship, and direct connectivity, because at the end of these events, they exchange information, they exchange emails, phone numbers, they go and talk to some of these women from outside of our company. This is where I'm at, this is where I would like to go, any tips, any suggestions. So we're building an even bigger network of sponsorship for the women in our company, outside of just their peers or some of their colleagues that they may have been used to. In regards to our Women's Leadership Development Initiative, again, it's about increasing the presence, strengthening career development opportunities, developing a role for senior management. So again, those that may be male leaders, to provide that women support, and capitalizing on the current women leaders that we have. So I do quite a few interviews as well in regards to this topic with media. And if you get a chance, actually just recorded a podcast that went live with Travel and Leisure, where you can hear me talk a little bit more about the support that I get and a little bit more about my passion for this industry. But here you can see how it's this leadership, networking, and mentoring, and workforce effectiveness. So again, making sure that we're emphasizing how we're providing their support for work-life balance. I think that a lot of times we have the questions in regards to maternity leaves, in regards to opportunities for mentoring, and making sure that we're building that right pipeline of women for future leaders. Again, those programs that we have, we're able to share information across disciplines. And I can call my counterpart in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and say, I have these two leaders that are ready for their next step. They are movable. They can go to your region. They can live in a different country, and being able to provide that because we're tracking a lot of their progress, the programs that they've participated in, who's been their mentor, connect with their mentors and see how is it working. Is she making progress towards some of those objectives and some of those goals? And I myself have quite a few ladies that I mentor across our company, and it's awesome, like to check in every 2 months or so. How are you doing? Is there a job that you're interested in applying for? How are you doing in regards to your approach to difficult situations potentially? And being able to do that. And I also received the same type of approach. So I was given an executive setup committee, and they did a 360, and they gave me a female coach within the company that was at a very high senior level of the company and had 25 plus years with the company. And we talked almost every other week. And she would even help me role play some difficult conversations that I would have with some of my peers or with some of a boss or anything like that. And just having that type of network that the company supports, fully sponsors. They fully sponsor the 360, the day lab that we did about my work, about where I wanted to go, asking me, where is it that you really want to go? And I say this also to a lot of the women that I mentor. Sometimes we're afraid to say, I want this job, or this job. And we get so stuck on thinking, well, I just want to grow. Because you don't want to say, well, it's that person's job. That person has the job right now. And I'm a big fan of having that vision and that idea of saying, these are my 3 dream next jobs. Yes, there are people in those jobs today, but if they were to retire or move on to another job, I want to be ready for it. So what do I need to do for the company to make sure that they would consider me for those positions? So that's some of the biggest advice that I've also received, making sure that you're in charge of your career as well. Some of the incredible recognition.
The question or a couple of the points that Jose had asked in regard to support policies like maternity leave, childcare, and mobility assistance. Are there any special differences between the different regions of the world for these support policies in Marriott?
We follow a lot of the local government. So, for example, in some parts of our region, the maternity leave is a full 12 months, which I believe is the same in some markets in Europe and the Middle East as well. So we do adapt to the local markets. And in some cases, we ensure that we have at least a foundation that is provided across all of the countries, but also follow the best practices of other companies that are recognized for being some of the best performance in regards to diversity and inclusion and supporting women. We leverage a lot of those best practices, and our HR teams in each country also use a third-party survey to do a lot of this work too. We also participate in all the best employers, all of the different ways in which you can recognize and get great places to work in so many of the different countries as well. And you can see some of that here on this slide. We actually included some of those. So again, best 100, Fortune 100 best companies to work for, best workplaces for women, best workplaces for parents, top companies for executive women. So we take some of the best practices in a market where we operate. You see that best employer for promoting Asian Pacific American women from Asia Society. Really, again, 44% of our executive leaders are women globally. And in the US, that number is actually even higher. So it's really something that we track very closely, and that our HR team really helps us being able to provide. Because I, for example, have a big population of team in Mexico, in Argentina, and in Brazil. So making sure that we have the right support for them in those markets as well, where I may not be as familiar with the local law. They help me with that.
So we have a question in regard to what happened to the men, but before we go there, I wanted to go a little deeper in what you mentioned. You talked about mentorship quite a bit in regard to the help that you received with mentors at Marriott. So there's a difference between mentorship and sponsorship. And I would like to know if you can go in a little more detail on what do you think are the differences between mentorship and sponsorship, and how you personally navigated finding sponsors to help you go after the roles that you aspire to.
From my perspective, and I'm sure that there are plenty of coaches out there that may define it differently, but in my opinion, what I have had over my career is the mentor is somebody that is not my direct supervisor, not any kind of direct boss or any direction like that, but maybe it's a peer or somebody in another leadership position outside of my day-to-day contact that can really help push me, that I can go to confidentially for advice, that can see me in action sometimes and can pinpoint things that I could be doing better, that I could work on, that I can tell them what I want to grow into, what I want to do, and how do I get there. Versus sponsorship, in a lot of cases, is those senior leader roles that are going to help me when that new position becomes open. They're going to help sponsor me to get into those roles and advocate for me to get into those positions. So that's the way that I see them differently. The mentor is somebody that I'm working on that journey of how do I grow? How do I get a bigger tool set of leadership skills? How do I become a better leader, a better professional? Versus sponsorship, which is that network that is going to vouch for me, that is going to tell me, you're ready for this next position. Let's go make sure that you're getting into that next role.
So we had also a question by, I think it was Aditi, and she asked, give us some of the do's and don'ts when you look for advancing in your career.
Okay, so do definitely trust your instinct, trust your gut, raise your hand, be vocal, go outside of your comfort zone. Definitely make sure that you're building those networks of mentors, of sponsors, of those people that you can really trust and that can go after. So definitely those are big do's. The big don'ts from my perspective is don't set yourself your own boundaries. Don't think that because you want to have a family, you're not going to be able to take on a new role. Don't try, and also, again, this is me personally, don't overuse also the fact that you're a female in some situations. So again, I think you said the question well for where are the men? And I am a big believer that women can do everything that men can do. So I don't know that we always have to be differentiating ourselves. So I don't believe in having to say, well, I'm different because I'm a woman, but it's supporting. And I think that that's what the company does, is ensuring that we have as much of a balance. The world's population is 50-50. So why shouldn't we be 50-50 in everything else around the world? And it's actually exciting. I read an article recently about how it's a lot more women now in professional studies and graduate degrees. The number of women is so much higher than the number of men joining graduate programs. So even more prepared women coming in, and more with lots of great studies to join the professional workforce.
So Sergio's question actually has a very interesting perspective to it. It's okay, women are now aspiring to more leadership, achieving more leadership, and it's a good thing for companies. But how can you make sure that you don't lose the men that you have to take with you in your team also, right? I think that was the gist of his question. So do you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think that that's what I was mentioning. I think world population is 50-50 or 51-49, I think was the latest stat that I saw. So I think it's all about balance. And I think it's always ensuring that we're not establishing policies that are going to disadvantage one over the other. And I think that that's what I was saying also in regards to my don'ts for women. It's don't abuse the benefits that have been put out there for some like women support or women inclusion, and instead is you're working just as hard for those same positions. So it's knowing that it's having that balance. And I think that that's why the company set up that goal of gender parity, and it's how do we support each other. I think that I've been incredibly honored and lucky to have had some amazing male bosses, and truly have been some of my biggest sponsors have been men. So I want to make sure that I am also supporting the men that are reporting to me, and my leadership team is pretty 50-50 actually. So it is, I have 9 people that report into me, and it is 5 and 4. So it's really about ensuring that they know that I'm as supportive of them as they are also of the women that they sit at the same executive table with.
Thank you very much, Diana. I know that you have a couple of slides on key takeaways. Why don't you go there before we end up with more questions that might be coming?
Perfect. That sounds good. And yes, please keep those questions coming. It makes it even more exciting and helps me also take some additional learnings back to my team. So I wanted to put together just some key takeaways from my perspective in regards to how we see it. And again, what I was just saying earlier, it's a balance, and together we're stronger, and together we can make powerful change happen. Gender equal world is healthier, wealthier, more equitable, more peaceful, and more productive. When a girl or a woman has agency, when she can make choices over her own life and the opportunity to shape it, it benefits her, but also the companies, economies, and societies. Not sure if you've had a chance to see the Belinda Gates book, but she does this incredible job about the way that how you support women in some developing nations really helps bring entire countries out of poverty. So highly recommend that book. Being strong also means knowing what you want personally. So what I mentioned in regards to that career steering, driving your own career, knowing where you want to go about personally and professionally, and having the courage to go for it. Don't be afraid to say to your boss, you know what? I want the job that person has today. What do I need to do? What areas do I need to prepare? And where are my gaps? What other positions maybe I need to take on before I am ready for that position? So really make sure that you're having that, and that again, that trusting your instinct for it. We've come very far, but again, there's still a lot of work to go, and I see it every day. I actually did a panel of general managers in our region recently, and it was all males, and I just kept commenting. I'm like, I need more female GMs in these conversations. So it's really making sure that we're continuing to push on that commitment and providing those opportunities. And if I can also ask you, please take a look at some of the jobs that may be in industries you may not have considered. So we're doing a ton of work at Marriott International to showcase the fact that hospitality and our hotels is not joining just a job, it's an adventure. So if I can please ask you to consider a career in hospitality, in travel, in the hotels in your markets. You may see it today as something that you were not considering or that you may not have ever wanted to go into, but it is such an amazing adventure, and we have lots of job openings right now, whether it's our headquarters in Bethesda or in some other parts of the world, and our hotels all over. And it's in different spaces, in insurance, in finance, in human resources, in communications. It's really just, it can take you so many places. And I also even had a chance to take a little getaway after a long time of being at home with my husband very recently. And we went to Turks and Caicos. And I like chatting with our associates and talking to so many of our ladies and gentlemen at the hotel and hearing where they came from. There was one that was from Italy and had spent some time in Spain and then was now in Turks and Caicos. There was somebody from India. There was somebody also from the UK. There were people from the US, locals of Turks, people from the Bahamas. So it's amazing the places, as to quote Dr. Seuss, the places you'll see that you get to do as part of joining this industry. And I'm at 60 countries today. I'm sure Dr. Lazar has probably many more, being European, but 60 countries from a girl that grew up in Cali, Colombia, with dreams of traveling the world is something I'm incredibly proud of.
As we have minutes left, and given the fact that I am the executive MBA academic director in our program, I have a question in regard to MBA programs. Mm-hmm. And I would like to know, if you reflect back on your MBA program, and we have many of our participants currently involved in the MBA program, what is it that you think that female MBA students should focus on, or maybe do more or do different in their MBA programs to get that really fast start?
One, it's definitely the networking, the opportunities to learn from the other students in your class, in your cohort, but those that like come in and speak. And Dr. Lizardo mentioned that earlier, how amazing it was to have some of the people that came in to spoke in our classes and asking them questions. Like, these are the executives that we want to get into. Like, having some of those CEOs or CFOs of companies that came into our MBA program, took the time out of their days to come and speak to our classes, take advantage of that. So ask them questions, stay engaged, pay attention to the lessons that they've learned. Many of them have 35 years of experience in their careers. And that is the value of the MBA, is learning from those speakers that come, learning from the professors that also have this great experience. In a lot of cases, the MBA professors also have been part of corporate America or corporate industry across many different countries, and being able to establish those relationships, learn from them and learn from your peers, and being able to build a network that you can rely on, and then you can grow from and keep going back on. And Dr. Lizardo also knows that I actually hired also somebody from my cohort, because even though she had nothing to do with the hospitality industry before, it was so awesome to get to know her during the program, and I saw her talent, and she's now been promoted a few times and has an amazing role that I hope she loves as much as I love mine with the company as well.
Which is kind of interesting, because we had a question earlier, right? The question was differences between hospitality and industrial goods. The colleague you hired actually came from the automotive industry, right? And
yep.
She switched from Bentley, I believe, to Marriott, two fantastic brands. And I am in contact with her on a regular basis, and she absolutely loves it. She loves working for Marriott, and she finds it as exciting as ever. Okay. So we are almost done with our time. If there are any other questions, we have about 2 minutes left. The time is now. I guess you have been very comprehensive, Diana. We don't have many more questions. So we do? Okay. I don't see them. Can you please tell me where they are?
I see a note from Delit Matthews, which made me so happy. So she says that because of her past experience in the hotel industry, she now holds a leadership position in general aviation as a minority and a woman. And she would gladly go back to her Marriott roots. I'm very proud to use Marriott as diversity-oriented employer. So thank you so much for that. That really, that makes it so worthwhile. I love hearing that. There's a question about my comment on the recent podcast on the traveling suitcases. So I mentioned I'm a very, very proud Colombian. So I was born and raised in Colombia in South America, and most of my family's still there. And we have this tradition that at midnight on New Year's Eve, we run around the block with a suitcase if you want to travel more in the future year. And that's what I did as a kid every year. I would run around with my suitcase at midnight. And my parents, my aunts, uncles used to make so much fun of me for it. And I mentioned it in the podcast because now my family jokes that they're going to lock the suitcase in a closet at midnight on New Year's because of how much I travel now, how much I am on the road. So it's that's my my traveling suitcase, my running with suitcase comment.
The other very important question that has been posted is the racial balance in regard to the leadership roles.
Yep. Yeah. And that's one of our key focuses. And that's what I mentioned, I think, in the beginning, lightly in regards to POC of people of color, which is how we're defining it now here in the US, and taking it into account. It is one of the key measurements that we have. So it's really about being able to leverage both. And again, I define myself as a POC and a female working here in the United States, and being able to support other people of color, whether they come from different backgrounds or different markets, they not the same ethnicity as mine. It's just how are we supporting them as well? So that diversity and inclusion goals for us are both female, but then also based on different ethnicities, and being able to support local as well as different associates coming into our organization.
Can you repeat the name of the book again that you mentioned?
Oh my goodness, it's the Belinda Gates book. She just wrote it. It came out last year. Let me look it up. I had it right here. It was so good. The Moment of Lift. So at the moment of Lift, how empowering women changes the world.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Diana, for your insights. We really enjoyed it. And thank you for the participants for your insightful questions as well. I hope you gained a glimpse into what you have to do to make it into leadership and what the specifics are that help female leadership to aspire and achieve the leadership positions that they want. Diana, as always, a major pleasure. Thank you very much. All the best to your career, to your further progress in leadership levels that are very exciting and not only travel intensive, but also fulfilling, right? And with that, thank you very much, everybody, and have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you so much. The honor was all mine. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Lazar.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.